wait, 16, 17 years. And I've been traveling for 10 of that. So I have actually been traveling longer in my career than I have been a full-time tech, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now, Jason?
There you go.
Okay.
Awesome. 2020, right? Our first interview.
Oh my goodness. So I went back this morning to re-listen to it, and that was right at the start of COVID, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I know that was part of our conversation. We talked about, traveling was affected a little bit. So I don't know if that affected the career, but maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we stayed in Nevada until December of 2020, which that's the longest we've been anywhere for a minute. And we actually, contracts were canceled. The hospital was nice enough to bring us on full time. I was actually per diem, but my husband went full time, and they brought us on knowing that when things got better, we were gonna get up and go. So that was really awesome of them, because as far as I know, across the country, travel techs were getting canceled left and right because, surgeries were being canceled and outpatients were being canceled, and everything was just in that weird holding pattern of 2020 of like, what's going to happen next.
How is it now with this 2021, 2022?
It's really good right now. We started traveling again, and we got New York off our bucket list, which was awesome. And we went in December of 2021. So I think we saw New York in a very strange time, but it was a really cool experience.
Okay.
And then we went to Idaho, which was a blast. And I don't know how this happened, but we kind of skirted the waves of the country. When we went to New York, they were, their surge was lower. They weren't really surging. And I worked outpatient, so I didn't see any COVID. Then we did summer in Idaho, and they weren't surging during the summer. But the fall, when the Delta surge was going on, we got hit really hard in Minnesota. So that was really tough. I had a very hard time with that, and it took me a while to kind of get past that and get through to the other side. But I'm feeling much better, and work's been good, and the people I've been working with are good. And yeah, it's been nice to be back on the road.
So Minnesota, wow.
Yes, we missed the winter, so that was okay. We did summer, fall.
Summer and fall. Okay. Yeah, it can get pretty cold over there. Wow. And
Yes.
have you ever been to Minnesota prior to?
No, that was our first time. So when it was presented to us, like, would you like to go to Minneapolis? We thought, yeah, we've never done the Midwest. This will be a whole new adventure. And it was beautiful. Arizona originally, we have fall, but it's not traditionally of like the leaves changing. So it was beautiful to watch all the colors during that season.
I think and that's a lot of places you just named right in there in a short period of
It
time.
was a lot. Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
we missed travel a lot apparently, so we got back at it full force.
Full force. Wow.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, since our last interview, I think you really inspired a lot of technologists. I think you really opened up people's eyes to the possibility of traveling. Yes. And to do it
so
even through a pandemic and still push through. I mean, even that by itself is still very inspiring. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That makes me happy to hear, because I love talking travel. Like, whenever I go to a new place and people want to talk about it, I'm like, yeah, just talk about it if you're interested. At the same time, I feel bad because obviously I'm there to fill a need and I shouldn't be pushing other techs to go do it. But it's great that our field, radiology, healthcare, allows us this opportunity, and the need is there for that. And if you have that bug to want to go do that, you should do it for sure.
Our field's kind of challenging, right? But it's really easy to say, look, it's worth the challenge, it's worth the sacrifice, because this field has a demand. And not only is there a demand, but there's opportunities, right? And there's opportunities in everything. You could actually enjoy doing what you're doing, and you're helping people at like at the same time too,
Yeah,
but
and radiology is a field that keeps you on your toes, keeps you thinking. Like you said, it's challenging, it's rewarding, you're helping people. And I know a lot, like after COVID, a lot of people talk about the work-life balance.
right.
And you want to get out there and see the country, but you also want to work. Travel kind of gives you that good work-life balance to do that. And you can do it in a career where you're helping people too.
Wow, incredible. So big question, I got a few questions, and some of them come from
Oh,
the
yeah.
audience, some of them come from students, but let's
Oh,
start from the
cool.
beginning, right? Let's start
Yeah.
from the beginning. How does one get started? How does one get started if they're interested in traveling?
So things have changed a little bit with COVID, but typically recruiters, travel companies, and hospitals or facilities that you're going to be working in that are in need of a traveler typically want 2 years experience in your field or modality. Um, with everything that's been going on this past year, the need for travel has just been crazy. I've never seen it like this since I've been traveling. So people are needed everywhere. The pay has been elevated.
Wow.
I don't know how long that's going to last, but I am seeing a couple of new techs that I worked with in Colorado. We actually just got back from Colorado working there. They were
Wow.
talking to recruiters and they've only had a year experience in CT. So I would
Wow.
recommend talking to a recruiter, see where you're at with your experience, and then talking to a couple travel companies and feel them out. They'll have better knowledge on what hospitals are looking for. A year is okay, 6 months, 2 years, but I myself would probably feel best with 2 years experience. And as you know, radiology, the learning curve is long. Like you're never going to know it all. So you want to feel semi-confident going in.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I had a hunch that there was an increase. And I think like our interview was just at the right time. It was just, it just lined
Yeah.
up perfectly, and you provided so much information.
Good.
So agencies, I'm assuming you worked with more than one agency before?
Yes. I actually am with a recruiter right now through an agency that I love. She's great to work with. She knows how I want to work, what I'm looking for. That being said, when I'm looking for a job, I always look with 3 different companies.
Okay.
Some hospitals have a contract with a specific company. So if there's a job that you really want to go to and you're working with your recruiter, but they just don't have that contract, you might be missing out. So I always pick at least 3 and put my feelers out there, but never. So here's the thing about that. You're working with 3, never submit for the same job with all 3 or like just the one. Like my recruiter has a job for me. She tells me about it. I submit with her, but then this other recruiter comes by and says, oh, this job's open. Do you want me to submit you? I just tell them, I'm working with my other recruiter. She already submitted me. Thank you. I'll contact you when it's time to start looking again. So just be upfront with the recruiters. Let them know that you're working with at least 2 or 3 different ones. But if you do find one that you like, very personable, you can get along, and they're actually working for you, you don't feel like I hate to say this about recruiters, but some of them give you the used cars salesman type of vibe.
Sure.
Steer clear of that. You want to find someone you mesh well with, because if you get paid, they get paid. They're getting you the job to get paid. It's, you're sharing in that.
Finding that right relationship with an agent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find it, stick with them, keep them close.
Yeah. And my recruiter knows, like, whenever it's time to come to look for a new job, I'm very open with her. Like, just so you know, I'm also have my application out with these other companies. So it's in her best interest to work for me, and it's in my best interest to be honest with her, because like I said, I may really want to go to Alaska for the summer, but Alaska is only contracting with this other company that I want to work with and not her. So I'm not going to miss out on my opportunity to go to Alaska.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Alaska, Colorado. You mentioned Colorado.
Just did Colorado for the winter, actually, and it was beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
lots of snowboarding, so I can get through snow if I'm snowboarding.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing some of your adventures. I know you share some on Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So pay, right? There's been a lot of memes out there with travel techs. I don't know if you've seen a few. They're
Oh
hilarious.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
hilarious. Shout out to all those people creating those memes.
Oh, I think I've actually found a few through you, because I follow your X-ray tech, you should follow them. And I mean, they keep me entertained, that's for sure.
But it's true, right? There's some truth to that, right?
There is some truth to that. And I do have to say, since I'm not really sure why everyone's so short-staffed, be it, people are burned out from COVID, I totally get that, and they're moving on to a new career, or they're just, found out that they're not as appreciated in some facilities and moving on to greener pastures, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of jobs right now. So, people want to entice you to come in, and it is the best money I've made in the 10 years traveling that I've been doing. It's
Wow.
really good. I hope it stays that way. I doubt it will, honestly. It's probably I don't think it'll go back down to what it was. I think it'll stay higher, but I don't see it staying at these wages.
Wow.
It's been really good.
Wow. That's encouraging. That's awesome. That's great to hear. And I'm happy for you because I mean it sounds like you're having a blast. You're doing great. And you're traveling with your husband, correct?
Yes. So big changes on that. He did cath and IR and we traveled together. He is changing careers. He's going into IT security.
Okay.
So this all just happened in while we were in Colorado, the past couple months. Just out of a hobby, started learning how to code and got a certification, put a LinkedIn profile up, and a company reached out to him, and we sat down, and he's like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And he's been a cath IR tech as long as I've been a CT tech. So if it doesn't work out, he can go right back into healthcare.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even, missed anything. So completely supportive, although it's taking us off the road a little bit.
Okay.
He's going to be based in Arizona, so I'm going to be traveling in Arizona.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And that's another question, right? Because travel techs don't necessarily have to travel somewhere else, right? Like you could travel close by.
You
Is that
can.
something? Yeah.
There's a weird rule. I don't know the specifics on it. This will have to go, and I know we talked about taxes a little bit last time.
Sure.
There is a website called Travel Tax. And from what I understand, it's a husband and wife. It's a couple. One was an accountant and one was a travel nurse, I think. So they know all the ins and outs. Whenever I have a question, they're really helpful. I email them my question. But this rule is the 50-mile rule. Supposedly, you have to be 50 miles away from your tax home to get the benefits of being a traveler. That's the tax-free housing and the tax-free per diems.
Okay.
That being said, I've also heard for instance, the Phoenix metro area is really just a smushed together of several cities. So I could live in Phoenix, but work in Scottsdale. It could, way out in Scottsdale, could be 50 miles away from where I live in Phoenix, but it's considered the Phoenix metro area.
Okay.
And it only takes me an hour in traffic to get back and forth from there, sort of thing. Okay. So is that really, putting me out? Not really.
Okay.
So I look at it try and be, for me personally, again, consult tax people.
Right.
If I'm taking work far enough away that I have to get a place to stay, if it's over an hour and a half drive, then yeah, I'm over 50 miles. I have to duplicate my housing. So now I'm renting a house or staying in an RV park or whatever, so I can work this job. You have to prove that it's a hardship for you, not necessarily a hardship, but prove that you're duplicating bills, housing, that sort of thing.
Wow.
It is, yeah.
your Airstream, I know last time we talked, it was something that was in the process. And how's that going along?
It's still in the process, but it's livable. So,
Nice.
you know, we took off running with travel again, so the Airstream kind of got put on hold, and we just work on it here and there when we can. But yeah, it's livable. It's looking good. It's exciting. It's nice to be kind of back in. We did a class ARV for a couple years. It's nice to be back in like a tiny living, although I'm looking around right now. I'm trying to figure out how to store things in tiny living again. It's been a minute.
Been a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like y'all gutted it and like really started from the, you know.
Yeah, we took it down to a bare shell. So now like we put walls back up. We have insulation inside the walls. We got an air conditioning. We're going to be pretty comfortable. It
Nice.
is very small space, but I pushed for a queen size bed. So we have a queen size bed in this tiny thing.
Wow. Okay, there you go. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing the final product, you know, so that's
Oh
nice.
yeah, I'll post on social media once it's all said and done and there's not boxes everywhere.
That's so cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so with travel, they could provide you some kind of living, right? Like
They,
I think last time we talked about Airbnbs and kind of those options.
yeah, yeah. So you can, there's a couple websites. There's a website called Furnish Finder that's geared specifically to travel healthcare
Wow.
workers. That's a really good one. Airbnb is really great, although with the housing market going up
Mm.
everywhere, rents have gone up everywhere. So that pushed Airbnb up. So
Mm.
trying to figure that out, you know, trying to find the best deal is kind of tricky. In Colorado, we actually found a short-term apartment that was unfurnished and
Okay.
just bought cheap furniture to put in it for the time being.
Great.
Yes, and you can have your company. I think what happens in a lot of places where there's not a lot of housing, your company can like contact the hospital, or there's someone who can find housing for you, and they can take care of all of it. And all you have to do is show up. They have an address for you, check in, which can be really great, especially if you're new to traveling or you really want to go somewhere and there's just no housing available.
Right.
Sometimes that happens, like higher end areas, typically. They still, Glenwood Springs, Colorado. We drove through there and there happened to be a contract there, but we could not find housing anywhere. Everything was way out of our price range.
Mm.
So we decided to just skip it, go to Boulder. But
Oh, okay. All
but
right.
yeah, places like that. So we could have asked our recruiter, like, hey, we really want to go here. What do you have on housing? They have people in their company that their job is to just look for housing.
The length of contracts, right? Like are they their options or they're all like set lengths?
So typically it's changed a little bit with COVID.
Sure.
Typically it's 13 weeks. That's your standard contract. Some places will ask for 6 months. I know places like Hawaii, I think, was asking for 6 months for a while.
Wow.
It's since there's such a need right now, you can negotiate that. Colorado, I did 9 weeks, I think,
Okay.
just because that's like I started my contract later than my husband started his, and we didn't want to stay any longer. We wanted to get back home and work on the Airstream.
Sure.
So I negotiated when I interviewed. I said I have to leave by this time. That's when my husband's contract is up, and they said that's fine. This current contract I'm going to do, I offered them 13 weeks, the typical contract, and they countered back with 17.
Okay.
And I kind of hemmed and hawed. If I wasn't in my home state, I probably wouldn't have. But yeah, it's really, so I accepted the 17, obviously, I'm here.
Nice.
But it's really, right now it's kind of negotiable. If you have a vacation planned or something and you're trying to get a job in for 8 weeks before you go, it never hurts to just throw that out there because people are in need.
Okay.
I would guess if the market slows down again or when it starts to slow down again, there's going to be more techs than there are jobs. So obviously they want 17 weeks. Got to
Sure.
give them 17 weeks.
Sure. Wow. And that's interesting. You said Hawaii, like, oh, they want 6 months, like spending 6 months in Hawaii. Like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
yeah, it's not a bad gig.
That's awesome. That's crazy to think that that's an option. You're a CT tech, right? You
Yes.
come into these contracts, you know, is it just CT? Like when you get there, it's just CT, or could they maybe say, hey, look, I don't know, cross train, or maybe like help in other areas, or is it just whatever's on the contract?
It's usually what's ever on the contract. There are lots of states that do dual modality techs or multimodality techs. California is one. They usually want you to do CT and X-ray,
Mm,
and that can also be negotiable. When your recruiter is submitting you for the job, they usually know like you're going to be doing CT and helping out in X-ray. Is that something you want to submit for?
okay.
And then I don't mind doing X-ray, but in the interview, I'm very honest and say I can do X-ray. It's been a while, and however long it's been, which I think now it's been 2 years, because it fluctuates. I'm not doing X-ray every contract, and I just tell them, I don't do fluoro, I don't do OR, but throw me in the ER and I can figure it out, sort of thing. So, and it's up to them.
I got a couple comments and questions that came in from the original film. So one says, thank you for this video. I'm a radiology tech assistant and just applied to my local radiology tech program. And I'm so excited about taking up traveling someday in the future. It's been a motivator. I think some people, weren't aware of the field. And then on top of that, they've heard I could travel and this field sounds amazing. And so I think you gave them a target, to aim for.
Oh, that makes me feel
So,
so good.
and we might have answered this, but I'll still ask. What are some good travel companies that you have used?
Right now I'm with Triage, and I really like them. I've heard good things about Focus Staff, but I've never used them. Aya is a pretty big one, and they have a lot of contracts all over the country. I don't have an issue with them. It's just they're one of the bigger ones.
Okay.
Triage is a big one too, but I've heard both things. Like people like them, people don't, and I've used them as a third party. There's a weird situation that happens sometimes where like I'm with Triage, but they're getting the contract through Aya, so then I'll deal with a little bit of Aya people.
Mm.
It's always worked out fine. I was with Cross Country for a long time. They were good. Who else? When I started, I was with Titan, which I feel like that's kind of like who everyone starts with for some reason. I don't know why, but everyone that I like is a new traveler is like Titan and Arias for some reason.
Yeah.
And they're fine too, but the last time I tried to negotiate with Titan, they didn't want to negotiate the pay package how I normally like. So I just prefer not to work with them anymore. I don't want to give any company like don't work with them. All the companies are good.
Right.
I would say like find a recruiter that you want to work with. That's most important.
Wow. Awesome. And this is coming from 10 years of experience traveling, right?
Yeah. I mean, all the companies more or less are going to be the same. You pick and choose which ones you like. Some people have good experiences with some have bad with others. What it comes down to is if they're going to work the way you want and if you like your recruiter.
Yeah. So this one's kind of interesting. It says, I guess because he saw the first one. It said, I know your husband is also in the field and was able to travel, but would a company allow someone who isn't in the field to travel with the registered technologists?
Like if he wasn't like right now, he's not in the field.
Sure. I'm
And
assuming,
yeah, I mean, they're not going to pay for like his airfare to go somewhere and or give me any more money because he's not working or whatever it may be. Like it is the same contract. That's just something you have to figure out with your family dynamic or whatever you have going on. I do know one situation, and this was a long time ago when we first started traveling. A nurse that my husband worked with somehow got her husband's airfare paid out to Hawaii with her. I have never heard of anything like that since. I don't know if it was just that one situation and the hospital really wanted to get her out there. So they were like, whatever she wants. But yeah,
Wow.
other than that, I mean, it's just like, can your partners, can their job be remote? Can they go wherever you go? But yeah, the company and the hospital typically won't pay their way, sort of thing.
How did you get into the field of radiology? How long, and then when did you decide to travel?
I got into the field because my mom was going for her second career and was getting into the field. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. She told me I had to do something. So I went and shadowed at her clinical site, and it was something that I thought, yeah, I could definitely do this. This looks fun. I want to try it out. And so I went to the same school that she did. We were actually in school together for a semester. She was just finishing when I was starting.
Nice.
And then, I knew traveling was a thing. And honestly, when I was younger, I didn't really, I thought I would just stay in Arizona forever. I'd get this job and that would be that. And then I met my husband at the hospital and we went on some big vacations like I've never been on. I think before I met my husband, I'd flown like 2 or 3 times in my life.
Nice.
So vacations where we flew across the country. And I was like, I like this. This is fun. So we started hopping about, kind of like long-term traveling. We meant to just move away and then moved away from each place a couple different times, sort of thing. And it was about 8 years into my career, after we had moved around a couple times and came back home to Phoenix, that we tried to move away again. And we ended up traveling. And yeah, I was 8 years into my career. I've been a tech now for 16, 17 years. And I've been traveling for 10 of that. So I have actually been traveling longer in my career than I have been a full-time tech, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we went with our first contract. We went with the intention of thinking it was Hawaii. We want to move here full time, but the hospital wanted us to take a travel contract first just to see if we really liked it. And we stayed there. We actually stayed there for 6 months.
Wow.
Hawaii, not.
Yeah.
But then we were like, but where else can we live for 6 months at a time? So we just went for it.
Any advice to somebody? They're in the field right now, they're watching, they're thinking about it, they're hesitant. What would you say to them?
I think last time I said, just go out and do it, which I think you totally should. Chances are you're probably really good at your job. People love you there. Talk with your supervisor. Tell them this is something you're interested in. You don't want to burn bridges. Let them know that in the future you would like to come back, because traveling doesn't last forever. Although I'm still, I don't know, it's been 10 years for me. But yeah, I mean, when I left my job to let them know that we're going to travel, I actually stayed hired on for a little bit as a per diem tech, just in case. I let them know, like, we're going to go try this thing out. I don't want to quit. I like working here. I'm going to try this. Is it okay if I, bump down to per diem? And they're like, yeah, of course. Let us know how it goes. And obviously we kept traveling. So, I just let them know, like, hey, thanks for the opportunity. If I come back to work full time, I will definitely try to work with you again. But yeah, talk to your supervisor. Maybe they could give you that sort of security, if that's what's kind of scary. Because yeah, it's scary to leave what you know for something that's temporary. And just make sure that it works for you, and that is going to be stressful. You're not going to get into it and be like, oh, everything's easy and wonderful. That you are starting somewhere new every 3 to 6 months, longer if you want. So you're always going to be the new person. You're always going to be the new kid at school. Housing can be frustrating. Sometimes I get so frustrated looking for housing. Like it's a process. Yeah, but go into it knowing that it's not all easy and travel, Instagram photos, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great advice. Great advice. Yeah, absolutely. Even with radiology, right? Like there's a lot of great things about it, but then there's the other side, right?
It's
There's
still a job. It's still life. Yeah.
yeah, that's great advice. So don't burn bridges,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah.
Live on good
Just have a
terms.
simple conversation. If you're worried about like maybe you want to come back, talk to your supervisor or your lead. And I mean, they're probably, if you're a good tech, they want to keep you, they're probably more than open to it, honestly.
Thank you so much, Kat, for your time. You know, the plan was always to provide information and you know, put our field, you know, on stage, you know, let people know what we
Yeah.
do.
I'm
So
actually really happy to see like all the like what you're doing, all the radiology people on social media and YouTube and like all of it, like giving us, you know, a name. Like people are, I feel like for a long time, radiology has always kind of been off in the corner. Like everyone's like, are you a nurse? What do you do? Like everyone's confused about what radiology is. But yeah, now we're getting a little people are noticing us now.
yes, absolutely. They're seeing how awesome we are, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing how awesome. Said you've impacted a lot of people for sure. It's
Oh, that
always
makes me
like
feel so good.
I've seen that video, or man, I want to do that, and it's just like it's even to the point where people have switched careers. You know, they're already doing something, but they want something different, and
Wow.
you know, so really excited about the field, and the field is exciting. There's a lot of things changing. It's been
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, definitely. So since we've talked, I did a blog where it's just kind of like all this information. I'm actually hopefully going to put a lot more on this year. I kind of took a break once we started traveling again, but yeah, it's radtechtravel.com.
and how's your baby? How's the little doggy doing?
He's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, you know, our little traveler. Wasn't a big fan of Colorado, but
He didn't
too
like the
much snow.
Oh,
No.
too much snow.
Yeah.
What's his name? Is Bob?
Bob. Bob, blah, blah.
Bob. There you go.
Yeah, he's
Wow.
doing good. He's getting up there in age, but I keep telling him, you know, you got to push to 25.
The places he's been to and things
He's such a little traveler.
It was great seeing you again.
Good to talk to you too.
Good to see you.
Bye.